Good.
Hey, it is Jim Chapman. I'm here with James-Adam McCants, and we are what, James?
Two bald guys.
You don't even need audio to figure that out.
No, not really.
So we are on our second episode of Two Bald Guys podcast. We are two bald guys from the deep South.
Indeed we are.
And we pretty much get on here and we're just going to talk about, well, anything and everything that really sparks our interest. There's a lot going on in the national news, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Obviously, we have a inauguration coming up.
'Tis the word.
'Tis the word. And Donald Trump, the current president, he said that he's going to boycott it. Whether you agree or disagree with that, interesting that he is the fourth president actually to do that.
Really?
That's what I thought. And then I started reading further. He is the first in like 100 years.
Sure.
But John Adams actually boycotted Thomas Jefferson's inauguration, which I thought Jefferson was a great president. I'd have been there if I was president before him.
Sure.
Quincy Adams, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, he boycotted. And Andrew Johnson actually boycotted U.S. grants.
Really?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me as much.
No, that makes sense, if you will.
A little bit of sense there. But at any rate, he is going to have some sort of, it's going to be like a celebration, I guess, of his presidency before that, prior to the actual inauguration the same day.
I figured it would be simulcast. Yeah. It would make sense to me, you know, the pattern of everything that's going on. He's going to say, well, let's see who tunes in more to a celebration of my presidency as opposed to inauguration. But
right,
he won't have the Foo Fighters playing at it because they'll be playing at the inauguration. I'm
telling you, man, and I'm just kind of so over it at this point. I don't even know if I'll watch. And I usually love those things, but it's just not a year that, you know, something like that I even feel like really getting into.
Well, what's that going to look like, I wonder? Because, you know, considering Biden couldn't pull more than like 15 people to a rally,
right?
What's his inauguration going to look like?
That's a good question. He'll probably have more than 15, but
maybe 25.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know how many presidents are still alive and all that, but yeah, he'll definitely not yank a Trump crowd to that, or you wouldn't think. I mean, you never know.
There's going to be those that are going for the historic fact of it not having anything to do with whom is being sworn in, but the fact that they're able to go to an inauguration, and then, you know, his supporters and whatever from there. But, you know, the thing about it is, I had a friend that went to Trump's inauguration, and she said that it was amazing how packed it was and how many people were there. There was just like, literally, it was like a mega concert with the amount of people there, but yet the news portrayed it that no one was there. They took these pictures, you know, way before the actual time of inauguration, like no one's even showing up. But yet she said it was, from every picture historically that she'd seen, it looked exactly like that, but maybe even more.
Yeah.
Of the amount of people were there.
Yeah, it was, I remember it being, I wasn't there in person, but I remember there was a couple times they panned to the crowd and it was packed. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see on Biden what he packs out, and I'm sure he'll attract some people.
There'll be people there.
Yeah, it'll be.
I mean, like I said,
the
Foo Fighters are playing. So if nothing else, there's you know, for people who have not seen a live concert in a year, basically, maybe a little bit less, but a year, to go see the Foo Fighters for free.
I didn't know the Foo Fighters were.
They signed on, I want to say Thursday or Friday.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know Biden was a Foo Fighter guy.
He's not. He's not. I think they were just kind of scrolling through trying to, you know, get some big name. And there's a handful of other people that are playing there as well. But
wow, I didn't know that. So Foo Fighter fans, check it out. they'll be playing a bunch of music there at the inauguration.
That's what
if
I
nothing
understand.
else, that'll be entertaining. So here's something interesting, James, that we hadn't talked about. I've been into mob movies and mob podcasts lately.
Mm-hmm.
Strange. I have no idea why. I like history, so I love true crime and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in the mob being true crime and the history that it has. But man, I have been really into listening to these old mobsters. They're now out of jail and they're all starting these podcasts.
Really?
Yes. And so much, in fact, it's pretty crazy because when you listen to a lot of like podcasts based off of the mafia, the problem is you think you're in the mafia when you get off. So I'm walking around the house and I'm like, hey, clean this up. Pick up your plate.
Yeah.
So one of the things I learned was that La Cosa Nostra, which is, how you like that accent, by the way? So that actually is what they called the mafia if you were in it. So it would be La Cosa Nostra, which means our thing. But I'll tell you what's appealing to me about the mob. You tell me your thoughts on this. So they did a bunch of bad stuff. There's no doubt about it. But I wondered for a long time how they got away with that stuff for so long before they really cracked down on them. I am convinced that it's because they had a rule. So one of their rules was you basically, number one, you couldn't sell drugs. Mob was totally against drugs because they felt like the federal government really paid attention to that.
Sure.
Even more than murder, apparently. But so you had to stay completely away from that. But also you had to follow the rules. They had rules. You could not, you couldn't sell drugs was one of them. You had to be loyal to the mob. You could not turn and rat them out, those sorts of things, or it was death. I mean, they would kill you in a heartbeat if you did. But that was what kind of kept them under the radar. And you didn't talk about it.
Like Fight Club.
Right. It was exactly like Fight Club.
You don't talk about the mob.
That's right. You didn't talk about it. And that was the problem with John Gotti when he, of course, he was the famous mobster that all of us know because it was kind of during our time period. Mm-hmm. But John Gotti was very flashy. He didn't hide the fact he was in the mob. And in the end, it's kind of what brought the mob down, and interestingly enough, the guy that ratted him out, which was his underboss, he actually has his own podcast now.
Really?
Yeah. So that's Sammy the Bull Gravano, who was the underboss to John Gotti and eventually turned on him. And if you listen to Sammy the Bull, he says, well, John Gotti was going to turn on me. I knew he was going to do it, and I just kind of beat him to it. But he's out now. He's got a podcast, and I think it's called the Our Thing Podcast. And it's pretty good, man. Them guys, they live the life now. It was, and there was a lot of horrible, awful stuff. I'm not promoting the mob, but it's an interesting thing. I mean, they were like a family, man. It was.
So what kind of stuff does he cover in his podcast?
He talks a lot about, other famous mobsters and he's talked about Gotti a little bit, but he talks about a lot of aspects of the mafia and things that they did that you would almost think were a movie, but real. I mean, talked about like planning killings, people. Now, when they would kill people, it wasn't spontaneous people. It was typically other mobsters.
Sure.
They ran rackets is what they did. So if you had a business in New York, for example, in Manhattan, and it was a paint manufacturing company, mm-hmm. Let's say you were based there and you're making money. Well, the mob in their mind, they get a piece of that because you're in their territory.
Sure.
So they go to you and they'd say, hey, look, you're making all this money and we're not getting any of it.
We're keeping you safe.
Yeah, we're keeping you safe.
Yeah.
That's right. So we need 5% of what you're making going forward. And we'll come by once a month and you just give us some money. And that was the agreement. Most people complied to that, believe it or not.
Small price to pay, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, they had, as a matter of fact, they had a couple guys owned a garbage business. They would they had some contracts to dump garbage for businesses, and they did not comply. They basically said, "You ain't getting none of our money," and they were like killed shortly thereafter. And so it was a situation where you almost had to do it.
Sure.
But eventually, Rudy Giuliani became a prosecutor for the federal government, and he went after him, and he nailed all of them. And they actually had a rule, and the rule was, we're not going to mess with the police. If they treat us fair, you catch us fair, it's all good. If you try to screw us, there's going to be a problem. If you frame us for something.
Sure.
And they thought Giuliani was a stand-up guy, and he was doing it fair, and so they didn't kill him. It was nice of him.
Yeah, but it's mighty considerate.
But he took out like 60-something of their head guys, and he broke up the mob almost single-handedly.
Wow.
Pretty impressive.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, so anyway, I don't know why I've been in that kind of mob mentality on podcasts, but I'm like, golly, I got to quit watching these because I get off and then I want to dominate the world and go shake people down for money. And
my brother, he visited Las Vegas a couple of years ago and went to the Mafia Museum in Las Vegas. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
He said it was phenomenal.
Really?
Phenomenal. It's like 2-3 story museum, and he got a couple of souvenirs and things. And it's like, man, just to see, historic accounts of all this stuff was just amazing. He said that was his favorite part of going.
Wow. Yeah, I'd love to check that out one day. I've always kind of been interested in it. It's been kind of a pet project of mine, just researching, all of that. But I'd love to see a museum like that. So I've been doing a little bit of that. I also watch. So there's a documentary going on right now on HBO. Mm-hmm. It's Tiger. It's called Tiger, and it's, as you may have guessed, on Tiger Woods. Either that or Bengal Tiger, and those wouldn't interest me as much. But it's on Tiger Woods, and I'll tell you what, man, it is a heck of a documentary. It's 2 parts. The second part actually comes on tonight, which is Sunday the 17th so of what month is it, James? January.
Still.
Yes. So if you're watching this, that's the day we are recording here. But yeah, it's a 2-part documentary. Tiger Woods, man, he's a amazing individual with, God-given talent.
Sure.
You ever doubt if there's a God, just look at people like Tiger Woods, who at 2 months old, James, was hitting golf balls spontaneously.
Do what?
Yeah, his dad was Earl Woods. Mm-hmm. Of course, he was kind of the guy who recognized this when Tiger was 2 months old. He was a golfer, just a hacker.
Sure.
Said he used to hit balls into a net in his garage. And he said Tiger would sit in his like high chair and he would watch. And he said he would not move from that high chair the whole time I'm hitting balls. If he was being fed and I would go in a backswing, he would jerk away from the spoon to watch me hit the ball. That's how much he loved it. So he said one day when he was, I don't know how many months old he was, but old enough to barely walk, he said we put him out of his high chair, put him on the ground, and the first thing he did was go pick up, baby golf clubs we had bought him and hit the ball and hit it straight as an arrow.
That is nuts.
Yeah, that's what his dad said.
I've never heard
He looked
that.
At his mom and he said, I just got a gift from God. And that was basically where it started. And of course at 4, I think, no, he was 2 years old. He went on the Bob Hope show and was putting, making putts. 2 years old, man.
Dude, what?
Yes.
I'm going to have to watch this now.
Yeah. And it's almost, what I like about it, it tells the true story of Tiger Woods in that obviously not a perfect person as he got older, had a lot of problems and things like that, like everybody. But he's on a national scale here, or worldwide scale, really. So every time he does something,
it's noticed.
Yeah. Nobody notices when I do stupid stuff. Well,
very
few people.
I can assure you of that.
Very few people. But he was just someone that was so gifted, and so the spotlight, just the way it affected him, I just could not imagine Matter of fact, when he was like 12 years old, his teacher went to his dad and said, Tiger wants to play some other sports, because Tiger was nervous to tell his dad that. And his dad said, he's a golfer.
Really?
Period. His dad was a Green Beret in the military and retired from the military. And very military type dad, but loved his son.
Sure.
Spent more time with his son probably than anybody in history. I mean, all they did was golf constantly. He was with him all the time and loved him, but he saw that potential. And he said on an interview one time, he felt like God gave him his son and said, I'm giving this talent to you, and it's your responsibility to raise him with it. And he took it serious because Tiger was a black golfer.
Yeah.
And he felt like this kid is going to revolutionize. And he did it in a lot of ways. But revolutionize that game, where when Tiger was 18 years old, he still could not play on some courses.
Really?
The Masters being one of them. Augusta National did not allow blacks to play on their course, I think, until the mid-90s, right before he played his first Masters.
That's nuts. And it's just crazy to even think that restrictions like that were in place. I can understand within my lifetime because I've been alive for 41 years, but like not long ago at all.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere like Augusta, though. I mean, as far as
it is in Georgia.
It is. It is in Georgia.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so but a great documentary. The second part comes on tonight, and the teaser for that was the best part of the whole thing, because basically part one is ending. And it's ending. It cuts to another part, and it shows this lady, real pretty, beautiful girl, actually, and she sits down. And it was the mistress that Tiger Woods had called. He had made a phone call to, and I don't know, some people might have heard this, but you can hear it on YouTube if you're curious. But he actually calls her, gets her machine. He says, hey, this is Tiger. If my wife calls you, can you please change the message and don't put your name? Just make it like where you,
hey, I'm sorry, missed your call. Call me back.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And he was panicking. And I'm like, well, the first place you messed up was you said, hey, this is Tiger. She's going to know who you are. Just say, hey.
It's probably not the best idea to leave any recording at all. Maybe just try her back a little bit later.
Yeah. So this first part of the documentary is ending, and it's this girl sitting down, beautiful girl, and she says, so what did you want me to talk about? And then it ends. And it says, tune in next week. And I'm like, you killing me here.
I'm going to have to check that out. That's interesting. I don't know if you happen to catch The Last Dance. That was released about a year ago.
Wait, yes, I did. No, I'm sorry. I saw
the story
that.
of the early 90s NBA.
Oh, yeah. That was great with Michael Jordan. Yeah.
Man.
That was a competitor, was he not?
Are you kidding me? It was. Still is, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah.
On the golf course. Funny,
on the golf course, on the card table.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything. He wanted to win at anything he did.
To be the best and win at anything he did.
Yep.
And to what cost, being friendships, business relationships, didn't care. Marriage didn't matter. Didn't matter to him. He was going to be the best. Subsequently, the natural or raw talent really wasn't there because he was cut from high school basketball teams. It wasn't like he was the natural at 2 months swinging a golf club or hitting free throws. He literally willed himself into existence as far as the greatest basketball player, in my humble opinion, that's ever lived.
Yeah, I agree. He dominated the game. And, that was an era, James, where they had a bunch of great players. Larry Bird.
Absolutely.
Magic Johnson, Spud Webb even at 5'7". But that was just a era for basketball. And you had that many great players, and he was still head and shoulders above them.
Absolutely.
It tells you how good he was. I think he's 100 times better than LeBron James. LeBron James just didn't have the competition around. No, he's great. He's a great player, definitely top 5.
Yeah, but he's a professional basketball player. He is. Yeah. And he's a good player.
Yeah.
He's no Michael Jordan.
No, he's not.
Not by any stretch of the imagination.
No. And James, talking about his competitiveness, I think that him getting cut really probably was the best thing that ever happened to him, because it probably lit a fire under him that he never lost. Anybody who's good at something can be good at it, and that's all great. But when you are at that level, just totally dominant in whatever it is, whether it's business, whether it's Tiger Woods in golf, Michael Jordan in basketball, it's because you're competitive.
Yeah.
Ultra competitive. You don't want to lose. And
it becomes more of a passion and desire.
Yeah.
And it's not even just passion, because a lot of people can be passionate about what they do. It almost becomes obsessive. It's to a degree where that is all he is going to do, is be the greatest basketball player, be the greatest golfer, so on. And it's definitely not something that is taught. It can't be taught.
Can't be taught. Cannot be. And, even in those players like that, and I'll go back to Tiger Woods for a second. There's in that documentary, his caddy is telling a story of them. They were leaving an airport. They were in the car, the caddy's driving, and they're headed to the hotel. And Tiger, all of a sudden, he said, we're on the interstate. Tiger says, pull over. He's like, what? And Tiger says, pull over. And okay, so he pulls over on the interstate. He's thinking Tiger got sick or something. He's got a puke. He got whatever. He pulls over. Tiger gets out, pulls out a golf club, and starts swinging the golf club on the side of the interstate. Now, imagine, now he's already Tiger Woods at this point. Everybody knows him in the world.
Sure.
Imagine driving down the interstate and Tiger Woods is swinging a golf club.
Could you imagine me being on? I think I just passed
Was that Tiger
Woods on the
Woods?
side of the road,
I'm
swinging at a clump of grass.
Yeah, I'd definitely get off at the next exit and make a loop.
Indeed.
But swinging that golf club, and he's like, what are you doing? And he said Tiger was out there about 15 minutes, gets back in the car, and he said, I'm trying to change my swing, and I had an idea of a way I could do it, and I didn't want to lose the idea. So now this is the greatest golfer of all time at this point in history, and he's still doing that. The caddy said he would hit somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 balls a day every day of his life. Wow, man. Yeah. I mean, you are obsessed when you do that, especially when you're at the top. It's easy to get complacent when you're at the top.
Yeah.
But the ultra competitive guys and the guys that last are the ones that no matter where they're at on that food chain, they're still working every day, honing their craft.
And breathing.
Guaranteed Michael Jordan shot free throws every day. He shot 3-pointers every day. Probably still goes out there at 10 o'clock at night and shoots them just to see if he can still make them.
Why not, right?
Yeah. I mean, but there's something to be said for that. And it's definitely something that contributes to their greatness.
Sure.
But it's an addiction.
Yeah.
In some ways, right? Would you agree?
It's an obsession-driven addiction.
Yes.
It's the best way I can think of to describe it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. You see, you read, not necessarily self-help, but self-promotion books or, things like that. And it's constant. You see this pattern of when others are resting, when others have had enough, when others take a break, the greatest that have ever lived in any field, any realm, are putting in the extra time, are putting in they don't take days off. They don't take breaks. They don't take rests. They don't, set the golf clubs up in the spare bedroom for a month and a half and pick them back up. That's just not the way it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I can remember, and not that I'm anywhere near that level, but I can remember when I was in high school, I wanted to increase my 40-yard dash time. And believe it or not, back then I was quick. I wasn't super fast, but I was quick. And I can remember vividly going out in my front yard, and we had sidewalks, in front of our house. And I had marked off 40 yards, and I would go out there at 10 o'clock at night and run sprints back and forth, back and forth. My neighbors must have thought I was crazy. I think about it now, but I wouldn't time myself. I just run them.
Yeah.
And I would run 20 or 30 of those 40-yard sprints back and forth every night. And I did it primarily just because I wanted to improve.
Sure.
And I knew that there was only one way to do that. I can even remember thinking in my mind as I was doing them, whoever I'm running against probably isn't out here at 10 o'clock at night doing this. So I'm getting one up on them.
Sure.
That's my mentality on that. And I think I carried that throughout, anything extra that I do, I'm always thinking whoever I'm chasing is probably not doing it. So I would put myself in uncomfortable positions intentionally.
Use it as that thorn in your paw that constantly reminded you, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the case of the 40 yards, I never did get the time I wanted. Unfortunately, but it wasn't for lack of work.
Sure.
That was,
and I guarantee you, and I think you even said this, you improved your time on it, didn't you?
It did. It did improve. So some things you're just gifted with.
Sure. And I was reading something
wasn't mine.
Over the weekend, actually, about goal setting. Actually, it was Cammie's little article that she does in the Livingston Parish News. I was reading about goal setting and fallacies in goal setting. When January, new year, new you, new me, whatever. You want to set goals, and I've heard over time as well. You want to set a realistic goal, but then I've also heard from some people you want to set a totally unrealistic goal, because even if you fail at reaching that goal, if you're the type that won't give up because you haven't reached it yet, you're guaranteed to at least improve and come close to that unrealistic goal that you might set. Now, that was one of the 5 fallacies I think she had on people when they set goals, is setting something unrealistic. But most people, if they don't see the possibility of them obtaining a goal, give up.
Right.
Whereas if you're driven and you're, regardless if I hit it or not, I'm still going to strive for it. You're still going to improve whatever it is that you're doing. You may not ultimately hit, I'm going to make $2 million this year, but you may make one.
Right.
You may make 1.5. To fall a little bit short of an unrealistic goal is better than not setting a goal at all.
Correct. I agree 100%. And me personally, I'm a huge believer in goal setting. I do it in life all the time. I have short-term goals, long-term goals, and intermediate goals. And, most of them at some point I would have thought were unrealistic. I don't ever limit, and this is me personally, but I would recommend for anybody, don't ever limit what's possible. Because when you limit what's possible, you're gonna stop once you achieve it instead of keep going. I've achieved things in my life that people would have thought I was crazy if I would have said, I'm telling you, this is going to happen, or I'm going to be able to do this. And, it was a goal, but I certainly thought I could reach it. And so from that perspective, I agree that unrealistic goals to an extent are where you want to be. Now, I'm not going to set a goal that I can do 1,000 push-ups without stopping. Right. That's just not going to happen. But I could set a goal that I'd do 100, and I bet I could hit that goal. Anything with regard to goals that I've ever done, it's really the only way I can achieve anything, if that makes any sense. I've never went through life, whether it be in sales, where I've set a goal that people would, as a matter of fact, it is so much more, it tastes so much more better when you achieve something nobody thought you could achieve. Sure. Because that's what drives me when somebody tells me I can't do something. It's just not possible. That's an unrealistic goal. Really. Watch. Yeah. Yes. And so it drives me, and I will stop at nothing to hit that. And I've had some goals that I haven't hit in my life, but I've had a lot that I've hit that nobody thought I would hit, or they thought not that soon. And it just drove me, man. And I'm sure you've had that too. We've all had that. And so I would agree. I mean, in martial arts, they teach you, or boxing really is don't punch to the target, punch through the target. Mm-hmm. So if you're hitting something, you don't want to stop when you hit the board. You want to punch through the board, sort of thing. Same thing with goals. You don't want to say, well, I'm going to sell 20 gallons of paint, and you sell 20 and you stop because I hit that goal. You want to say, I'm going to sell 50 gallons of paint because it's going to take everything you got to sell that 50. And if you do hit the 50, you're happy and maybe you're satisfied with that, but then you set that to 60 for the next month. You got to always keep going up.
Sure. It's a matter of setting a goal, striving, pushing towards that goal. Once you reach the goal, reevaluate, reassess, set another goal, and move forward, Yeah.
Yeah. Because in the sales business, it's what have you done for me lately business. I mean, every month you start out at zero. And that's always kind of appealed to me because I could never rest on my laurels, and had to it's been a great career path for me that I was fortunate to discover early because, I'm someone that always needs goals.
Sure.
And those sorts of things.
That's your driving force.
Totally. Totally.
Goal oriented.
It really is. And and it has to be almost unrealistic because I want to show people that, I can do it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Don't limit me. Don't tell me I can't do this because, I can. I don't know. I'm wired different that way, man. I just never have been one of these people that thought things were impossible. But I think greatness comes out of that with some people. What if Elon Musk would have said there's no way I can ever, start SpaceX, or the guy at Amazon, Jeff Bezos, we were talking about the last episode. What if he just said, this is too hard?
Screw it.
I mean, where would we be? The inventor of the iPhone, all these great people, I'm sure were told you can't do something many times.
Yeah, that won't work.
Yeah. That's too much. Yeah. You don't have the money or whatever. So anyway, I agree with that 100%. Goal setting is huge. Very important part of success, in my opinion. You're reading a book right now or you just finished it, the one you gave me. Tell us a little bit about that. The Profit First. Yeah.
It really is it's a great book as far as disrupting the idea of running a business off of a bookkeeper's running tally, or what would you call that? Spreadsheets and monthly reports and whatnot. Because, bottom line is, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs can kind of recognize this and they've been through it before. You look at year-end numbers and you see that we're running at a 23% profit margin, which means that we should, if we did $1 million, we should have $230,000, sitting around to spend. And that's not always the case. So it's a different mentality as far as basically what it causes you to do is separate things by, obviously profit, taxes, goods, like whatever you would need in order to sell what you're selling, the service or the product or whatever. Then you've got cost of doing business, so on and so forth. Well, what really, in essence, what it's making you do is evaluate where every dollar is going.
Right.
And on top of that, you're projecting off of looking at records and your evaluations. You're projecting what the profit's going to be if you keep going at that rate, or even a slight increase or decrease. Excuse me. And you're taking that profit out at the very get-go and setting it in a totally different account. So that way it's sitting there. So if everything goes as scheduled, if whatever parameters you set up your time frame at, that carrot is sitting over there waiting for you to enjoy it once that period of time is done.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting in how that works, because it causes you to really, it's an efficiency driven program. It really, it takes away the nest egg scenario, or the what do you call that?
The basically where you're holding a bunch of money and you don't know what to.
Sure. Well, it takes away
where it's going.
The safety net. That's the word. That's the phrase I was looking for. It takes away the safety net to where you're forced to make decisions regarding efficiency off of what actually it should be coming from, which is, may it be your goods that you're buying, or cost of doing business, or, a lot of times an entrepreneur will be like, I've got to have this, I'm a successful business. I'm running a, business with a 23% profit margin. I've got to have this beautiful office with the latest as far as technology goes, and the nicest furniture. And I want to make sure that when my clients come in, I've got this spread of snacks and drinks and so on and so forth. And then you don't have clients come into the office, so the food either spoils or you end up giving it away. The technology that you have just refurbished and you got the nicest TVs and computers and this, that, and the other are absolutely not key components to where you got where you are now. So you've just realized you've blown $20,000 in new technological, purchases that are relevant to doing what you do business with. And then it even causes you to take a step back and look at, if you have employees, am I doing this as efficiently as possible? Or am I just saying, I'm making all this money, who cares that shrinkage is way up? We're fine, we're making all this money. Well, that doesn't contribute to the bottom line. In fact, the book is really just, I personally am using the ideas and the philosophy behind it on the budget and my household, treating it as if it were a business. And there is a part of the book that actually talks about doing that, not just utilizing it in a business sense and in your work world, but also incorporating that into your personal life, into your personal budget. And
excellent.
There's a lot of parallels, and he even actually mentions Dave Ramsey a couple times in there. And there's a lot of parallels as far as the Ramsey approach to finances and so on. But it's a good book, man. I read it within a week, which is like record time for me. I'm telling you.
Look, I used to read tons of them and quick when I was younger, but get busy with life, kids, and everything else.
Sure.
It's hard to get through those books quick. So if you're interested, there it is. It is Profit First, Mike Michalowicz. And transform your business from a cash-eating monster to a money-making machine.
Yeah.
So check it out if you're interested. I promise you they're not paying the two bald guys anything.
Not yet. We will definitely send him a link, hashtags, and whatnot.
Absolutely. At least send us some free copies.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny you may mention that. It was actually given to me by Heather Dronette, who owns Brushfire Studios right here in the Antique District.
There you go.
She had put something on Facebook before Christmas about finishing the book, and apparently she had come across a handful of copies of them. However, I don't know, but she asked who, it's a great read, who might be interested in one of these. I'd be more than happy to mail it to you. So I messaged her, do I need to give you my address? She's like, punk, I'll just drop it off. It's all of 120 yards down the road. But
yeah. Well, shout out to Brushfire.
Indeed. I greatly appreciate it.
Also, something interesting to discuss here, James. So they have a new app out, and I actually checked this out yesterday. Goes to show you those Facebook ads work because this showed up on my Facebook ad, but it's an app called a Robo Killer. Have you heard about this?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So what it does is it blocks spam calls.
Really?
I get tons. I'm talking a day of just, you answer it and it's like, your Google listing has not been updated and all that kind of stuff.
Don't hang up.
Oh man, I get tons of these, and especially when you're a sales rep, it's a pain.
Yeah.
Now they're tricking you because what they're doing is they're calling from local numbers, right?
Yep.
And so you answer it thinking especially when you're in sales.
Could be your next sale.
Yeah, it could be my next sale. Instead, it's someone offering me life insurance.
Yeah.
So aggravating because this is now it's getting to the point it's like 10 times a day. I have to block whatever number it was. So what this app does is if you know how sometimes you'll get a phone call and it'll just say spam call. Mm-hmm. Well, it completely blocks those. You won't even know you're getting them. But this is the interesting thing about it. It actually has it's a mode on it where you can play, it'll respond to the people that are calling for you.
Really?
So basically, yes, it's so funny, man. I wish I'd have brought my phone in here because I would have played one for the speaker, but it actually has like an iced tea voice on there, iced tea, and it's like, yeah. And then whoever's trying to say something says, hey, this is so-and-so from so-and-so life insurance. What you want, man? And then it waits about 15 seconds and it's like, hold up, what you trying to sell me? And it keeps them on the phone, and then it plays you a transcript of what they said. So you never actually answer the phone, but there's this thing that goes to your voicemail that plays an entire transcript.
That sounds like it could be incredibly entertaining.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I'm like, I've got to download this. So it had like a 3-day trial, and then it's like $4.99 a month for the app or whatever. But I went ahead and downloaded. The only downside to this app was if it's not people that you have in your contacts already. So if it's a number that's not in your contacts, it'll automatically pick up and it'll say, hi, Jim Chapman has RoboKiller installed on his phone. Please say who you are and why you're calling. And then, so the person would say, this is Steve, I'm calling about paint. And it would send me a message while they're still on the phone and say, do you want to talk to Steve about paint? And if I want to, I click accept and it'll connect me. If I don't want to, I click decline, and then it goes into the iced tea thing. Or Donald Trump's another one it has on there. It's got like 50 different people on there.
I want mine to be Pee Wee Herman.
It might have Pee Wee Herman on there, but it's hilarious. But the only problem for me is that's a little bit crass when you're trying to sell something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder what kind of turnoff that is for someone who is caught. But I mean, people have to understand. When you're especially in this environment, this sales environment that we live in now, there's people that don't even have landlines. They strictly work off of cell phones.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah, same here.
I don't have one.
So the thing about it is, the level of disconnect. As far as it seemed like the second that they were able to start using telemarketing on cell phones, because you remember in the golden years of cell phones, a telemarketer couldn't call your phone.
Right.
Sales robocalls didn't exist. And then when it happened, it was just like the floodgates were open.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say half of the phone calls I get in a day are, please don't hang up.
Yeah,
we have important news about and it's like, the second you say, please don't hang up, click.
It's interesting. It's a neat little app. I thought it was hilarious when I listened to because there's like 50 different people on there. And the whole point is get back at the spammers. So these little recordings, try to keep them on there as long as possible. And it played some samples of in the past when people have picked up that were telemarketers. And it's so funny because some of them are like, what did you say? And
what about the scam calls? The guy calling from the IRS.
Oh yeah. So your Social Security number has been canceled. I got that one the other day, and I'm messing around. I'm it's a recording, but I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this. Oh my gosh, my social. What am I gonna do?
I did that with one of the IRS guys. I was like, oh my God, please no. What do you need? My Social Security number? Do you need my bank account? And I was like, I was laying it on so thick, and he just like went off on me, started cussing at me and everything, and then hung up. I was like, dude, are you for real right now?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just having some fun with you, but whatever.
Well, yeah, so check that app out.
RoboKiller.
Now, a lot of people are excited, James. Biden has announced his plan for his presidency, I guess, his first 100 days. Mm-hmm. One of those things was $15 an hour minimum wage. Aren't we all excited about that? Yeah.
I sure hope not. And I tell you, if anyone out there can explain to me how this can end up any way other than
inflation.
Horrible.
Inflation.
Yeah, but I mean, it just devalues everyone else's dollar. Everyone, period.
Yeah, it really does. And here's the issue. And first of all, okay, and we get a little opinionated on this show, but here's my opinion on this. Entry level jobs are not intended to be jobs that can be self-supportive. This is my opinion. If it's an entry level job that pays minimum wage, okay, your son going to work at Carter's, for example, I don't expect my son to make a whole lot more than minimum wage. It's his first job, right?
Sure.
So the point of the new incoming federal government is that nobody should live below the poverty level after working 40 hours a week. I'm all for
I could see that.
Everybody progressing in life. I'm all for that, but you've got to have lower paying jobs so that people have jobs.
That's right.
So
that goods and services can be affordable.
Period. And that's really the key behind all of this. So let me tell you my crystal ball here, what's going to happen. Being in the business world like we have for so long. If you're used to buying a loaf of bread for $3.50 and the people that make that bread that grow it have to pay their guys $15 an hour, and then you get it to the store and the grocery store employees have to make $15 an hour to bag that bread, how much do you think that bread's going to cost? It's probably going to go up, right?
Yeah.
The whole point of the matter is the companies aren't going to give up the margin. They've got to make a certain margin.
That's right.
So they're going to have a price increase. No matter who they are. If you're a paint company, you're probably going to increase the cost of your paint to make up for the fact that you had to give all your people a raise. You know, where it causes a problem is when you have good people and then they say, well, wait a minute, I'm over here making $17 an hour. I can go to McDonald's and make $15 an hour and not work half as hard.
That's right.
So even if you're not making minimum wage, you almost have to raise people's pay because of that. So it causes a bit of a problem there. But more than anything else, nobody's in any better position because while you're making the $15 an hour and your paycheck is higher, everything you buy has increased, right? I don't understand. It's just simple economics. I mean, if you're used to making a 30% margin, you're not going to eat that margin because you have to give your employees more money. You're just going to raise the cost of whatever it is. This microphone, if it was $400, would cost me $500.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So,
well, I'll tell you that the experience that I've had as far as minimum wage goes was the very first job that I had. And that was working at Winn-Dixie. And I worked in a department. I wasn't a buggy boy. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but it was, it was somewhat of not necessarily a skill, but there was responsibilities, knowledge. There were things other than go get the buggies, put them in the buggy cart inside. When you're done with that, go get the buggies, put them in the buggy cart inside. When you're done, back. Mm-hmm. So here I started off at $4.10 an hour, which was minimum wage. And I worked and I worked and I worked. And within 6 months, I got a raise up to $4.50. Well, I worked harder, was, made myself available, proved my value to the company. And before you know it, I was making $5.25 within just over a year of working there. Super proud of myself, super pumped about everything. Then I believe it was Bill Clinton came through and raised minimum wage to $5.25. Well, guess who didn't get a raise? Because I stayed right there at $5.25, and the guy that just started, walked in off the street and was the buggy pusher, is making the same amount of money that I was now. Mm-hmm. Then when it really hit home was about 2 months later when I went to go, I had my lunch break and I went to McDonald's, which is right there in front of Winn-Dixie, and my value meal now cost me over $5. And I'm like, wait, what?
All right.
Yeah, I was just here last week and it was $3.89 including tax. Well, now it's $5.15 or $5.25 or whatever. What? And then it dawned on me, because everybody's making more money now. So the cost to for everything from the, people who are making the bread, people who are processing the cow, so on, and it just goes all the way up the chain.
That's all it does. And you think back when our parents were kids, a loaf of bread was 25 cents or whatever they would tell us. True. Because they were only making $1 an hour.
That's right.
The more, it hasn't changed. The more, it wasn't like when you got a raise in minimum wage, you had all this extra money. You didn't, because everything went up. Guess what? If you're renting an apartment and that lease comes up at the end of the year, when you renew it, they're going to charge you more.
Yep.
Everything is going to go up, guaranteed. It's called inflation, and it is caused by, several factors. One of them being things like this. Another one being when your federal government spends money like drunken sailors and gives it away. And we've got a situation right now where, look, I'm not one to turn down money.
Sure.
ever. And if you want to give me an extra $1,400, which is what they're talking about per person, and your kids even $1,400. So if you have a family of 5, that's $10,000 the federal government's going to give you for just period
for being alive,
for being alive and all that. And it's all of our money. And I don't feel like I'm necessarily taking anything. I've certainly paid a heck of a lot more than that into the federal government. But that being said, wow. Inflation, is a real thing. And you wonder how many trillions of dollars you can give away before that comes back to bite you.
Yeah.
And so I hope I'm wrong on that, and that my, college economics professor was also wrong on it. But short of that,
the scary thing about it is now with the Democrats, holding down as much power as they do, whatever cockamamie scheme he may come up with, it's probably just going to go on through.
There's not much stopping him. And that's the scary thing when you have complete control of the House, complete control of the Senate, and complete control of the presidency. There's not much stopping you. And so, if they think it's a good idea, the only thing that we can do from a standpoint of, regular citizens is remember these votes, remember who voted for what. And then when it comes time to reelect, use an educated decision there.
Sure.
And that's really all that can be done in that situation. Hopefully cooler heads will prevail and some decisions will be made that was smart. But I just, these trillions of dollars, I love getting money, and I didn't complain when that deposit went in my account, but
to what cost?
To what cost? I mean, they're talking about possibly doing this ongoing. Yeah. I mean, I heard something yesterday where they were talking about like every quarter, basically, giving these stimulus payments. And look, some people do need help. Yeah. And there's got to be another way. It's just crazy, man. It's mind-boggling. I've never seen this.
Jim, I can sit here and every week stroke you a check for nothing.
Mm-hmm. And I'll take it.
And you'll take it. But eventually at some point in time, and it won't be long, those checks won't be any good anymore.
Right. Right. Or they won't be worth anything.
Not any good anymore.
Yeah. I mean, $1,000 won't be worth $1,000 anymore. So I'm sure I'm not the only one with that thought, but it is that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, another $1,400. And they're thinking this is going to be passed like next week. Like it's going to be the first thing he signs when he gets into office and all those sorts of things. So, anyway, it is what it is on that. Now, on to a little lighter notes.
Sure.
So, this came across my Facebook. I thought this was a good thing to maybe talk about, and that is rules to teach your son. We're fortunate we both have sons, and I'm sure a lot of people out there listening do. But I really liked reading this. Some of these Some of these I've taught my son. Some of these I'm like, man, I should have taught my son. Those sorts of things. But we'll go over them together, and I'm sure everybody will agree with these. I just thought it was a neat little deal. The first one, never shake a man's hand sitting down. That is something I personally always stand up, whether it's a man or a woman, really.
Sure.
I don't know why. I don't know that anybody ever taught me that. I always do it. Hopefully my son sees me do it. I don't know if I've ever actually told him, but
I've never really focused on the make sure you're standing up. I mean, I know that by instinct, and it may have been something that I don't even remember being taught, or maybe I just, I learned it by watching my dad or other men standing up to shake a hand. But that's one thing that I do push really hard with both of my sons. When you meet someone, a firm handshake, and you look them in the eye.
Yeah.
Period.
Very important. Very important. And some of these are comical. Like number 2 is don't enter a pool by the stairs. Always jump in the deep end.
That's right.
That's the funnest way to do that. Number 3, the man at the barbecue grill is the closest thing to a king.
Absolutely.
Number 4, in a negotiation, never take the first offer. Very true.
Well, that negates the whole phrase negotiation.
Yes, it does. Yeah, you lose right off the bat if you do that.
It's not really a negotiation if they make an offer and you accept.
Yeah, that's right. There is no negotiating there. Number 5, request the late checkout. Couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Number 6, when entrusted with a secret, keep it. Definitely. Number 7, hold your heroes to a higher standard. Number 8, return a borrowed car with a full tank of gas.
Yes, important.
Absolutely. Very important. And I've had people on both sides of that.
For sure.
I've been like, I'm never borrowing my car again.
Yep.
Play with passion or don't play with all. Play it all. Number 9. Number 10, always protect your siblings.
That's an important one, for
Yes,
sure.
I agree.
When anything else on this earth fails, you got your siblings.
Yes. Number 11, don't let a wishbone grow where a backbone should be.
Nice. I like how that's phrased.
I do too, and I don't think I've ever heard that one. Number 12, if you need music on the beach, you're missing the point.
That one,
It's more female oriented, I think.
well, yeah, and the thing about that,
I like music on the beach, man.
Absolutely. And there is definitely a genre of beach music, and it doesn't necessarily have to be rock or reggae or there is a genre of beach music that, just goes well with the smell of the salt in the air and the waves crashing.
I agree 100%. Number 13, carry 2 handkerchiefs. The one for the back pocket is for you. The one in the breast pocket is for her. That's a little bit old school. I don't think many people carry handkerchiefs anymore. But look, James got one.
I always have one.
Awesome.
I don't have to.
Wiping his bald head.
I don't have to. Summertime is to wipe the bald head.
Both of them are for him.
Wintertime, it's to occasionally dry the beer out and make sure that there's not anything in there.
I hear you. Number 14, you marry the girl, you marry her family.
There's a lot of truth to that. Yes.
Definitely true. Definitely true.
One way or another.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
That's right. So make sure you like the family and the girl.
For sure.
Number 15, be like a duck. Remain calm on the surface and paddle like crazy underneath.
That's a good one.
Love that one. Number 16, experience the serenity of traveling alone.
Now, that's something that I tell you, I don't know how often, and I'm sure to you have in some point in time, travel for business alone. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I
have.
That's the same thing with, sometimes I'll go get something for lunch and I'll go eat by myself. And I do that, I've done that for a long time. My wife's like, how can you do that? How can you go somewhere and eat by yourself? It's like, that's tranquil to me sometimes,
You know what girls call that? And I'm going to look at the camera here and say, all you girls call that me time. It's basically the same thing. It's a guy's version of that. So when we travel alone, we're having me time. And yes, I have some times where I've had to get in the car and go bring a sales order to somebody, and maybe it's an hour away. And so I'm like, man, I got to drive an hour away, then an hour back. But I'll tell you what, I get in that car and sometimes I need that hour, by myself.
Sure.
Just decompressing.
Sure.
So I get that. Number 18, never turn down a breath mint. Agreed. Number 19, a sport coat is worth 1,000 words. I don't really understand that one.
I'm not real sure about that one either.
Number 20, try writing your own eulogy. Never stop revising. Now it's getting weird. Let's see. I'm going to proofread a couple of these. Number 26, give credit, always take the blame. I don't know about that either. I'll take blame for stuff that's my fault. But
I was going to say, now, give credit where credit's due and always take the blame where blame is due.
Yeah.
I think there's some words missing out of there that can be misleading, if you know.
I think so too. I like this one. Number 29. Remember, at times the rain must fall for us to appreciate the sun.
For sure,
I agree with that. There's another one in here. Manners maketh the man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Always ask your mom to play. She won't let you win. Danielle, don't let him win.
Nah, I wouldn't see that. No,
so that's just a few of those.
But I don't know. You know, sometimes she's like, I can't believe you would, beat them that bad and whatever it is. I'm like, they got to learn how to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And then, as they're getting older, the games that we may play, I don't always win.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, I played Monopoly and thought I was going to kill everybody a couple of weeks ago. And we all sat down and played, and Trevor ended up winning. Braylon almost beat him. But I was out first. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got beat Monopoly by a bunch of kids and my wife. Yeah, I mean, because I was buying up everything, thinking, sure. Oh yeah, you're going to land. Look, I'm buying everything. Yeah, I might as well. And I don't know. I landed on the wrong thing at the wrong time, and I was out of money.
You really have to know. You've got to gauge your game on your competitors, because in a scenario like that, you're thinking they're all going to take it. They're all taking the same strategy and going to buy up as much property when they know, I'm going to let this old man go ahead and spend all his money, and then we're going to end up flushing him out by avoiding his rentals and whatnot. And then before you know it, you're out of the game.
Yeah. And I was. And so paybacks are coming on that front for sure. And last but not least, and we'll wrap this up today, but hey, the Saints are playing Tampa Bay today.
So what do you think about that? This would be the first time.
I love it that it's two old guys at quarterback, man.
Sure.
It means we can still do it, James.
If they win tonight, it will be the only time in NFL history that it's a 3-game sweep in a season. Yeah. May it be pre-standard season games or, combination of preseason standard games and postseason.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be something that old Drew can hang his hat on for sure.
And I'll tell you this, man, he came back. I didn't think he was going to come back from that injury this year.
I wasn't real sure either.
I was surprised, and not only did he come back, but he came back strong. And Saints are good. It's been a tough year for football, obviously with COVID. So I've kind of paid half attention, but like everything else in life, when people start winning, I look. Fair weather fan.
But there's definitely more interest to be had.
Yeah,
in that scenario.
Yeah.
Now I'm sitting here talking to you like I've watched a single minute of NFL football this year. In fact, I didn't even watch any college games this year. I just didn't really have an interest.
It was hard to get into it. I watched. The interesting thing with LSU was they were trying to find a quarterback. So I was finding interest in the games, if nothing else, from the aspect of let's see how these young guys look. LSU's got a promising future with Brad Johnson's son at quarterback.
Yeah, they got 20 starters returning next year. I was reading the other day.
Yeah, and they were young this year. I mean, they were young. They were inexperienced. They lost 3/4 of the team to the draft, and the other quarter decided they wanted to opt out, quote unquote. So, the best player in the country in college football opted out of LSU this year. So
where's he going? Alabama?
I think he's going pro.
Really?
It's and his name, of course, escapes me. Jamar Chase. Yeah,
he'd be a fool not to go pro if he's got the opportunity.
Oh yeah, he's.
I mean, let's just be honest with it.
He'd be a top 3 pick.
You're talking about, by far and large, an expiration date on a football player. And if you've got the opportunity to go straight from pure amateur status to, look, Mom, I'm rich now, do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. But it was a tough season to kind of pay a whole lot of attention to, especially when they were losing. And we were the defending national champs. But we ended up on a good note. And really, I think we found a quarterback. We have a pretty good backup as long as he don't transfer. And so I think LSU is going to be fine. They're returning a lot of starters.
Yeah.
And they got rid of Bo Pelini, which made me happy because I didn't like him the first time. And I'll tell anyone that. The second they rehired him, I'm like, I hated him the first time. Bo Pelini to me is just not a good coach, you know, and that's all there is to it. Enough about him. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up because we've went over an hour. But I am Jim Chapman.
James-Adam McCants.
And we are two ball guys.
From the Deep South.
From the Deep South. So we'll see you next time. Look for Local Leaders, the podcast. We have Elisa Verrett is going to be joining us. And we're going to be talking about her business right here in Livingston Parish upcoming. So look for that.
That'll be an interesting podcast for sure.
Very interesting. And also, if you haven't got an invite yet, check us out. We're going to be we're on Facebook at Two Ball Guys Podcast. We are also on Spotify, where you can hear all our audio versions. Of course, we're on YouTube at Two Bald Guys Podcast as well. So we'll see you next time. We're going to be talking about whatever occurs between now and then, James.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Hopefully not the end of the world.
Indeed.
Y'all have a great evening.
Bye-bye.